Okay, so welcome everyone to your afternoon meditation, and we're also going to be doing a discussion session after that. So if you're out there on YouTube, just stick around for that. Normally very interesting. And we're going to be talking about fear today, which is a very pertinent topic given what's happening in the world today. So just going somewhere where you're not going to be disturbed. For the next 20 minutes or so. Putting your phone on mute or silent. Sitting comfortably in your favorite meditation posture. So you're sitting on a chair, feet shoulder width apart, cup your hands in your lap. Close your eyes. And start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. Just filling up your lower stomach. Inflating it like a balloon, breathing into the heart center. Your upper chest. Squeeze the sphincter muscle. So the muscle used to contract the flow of urine. Squeeze the last drops out. It locks the energy in and helps to create a pumping action. So you just draw this life energy up the spine into your heart center. Put one hand on your heart. And just bringing your attention completely into the present moment. There's nowhere else to go. There's nothing else to do. There's nothing else to think about for the next 20 minutes. Just breathe, relax, be still. Take another sip of air in. Feel this life energy rising all the way up into the crown of your head. Just pause at the top of the inhale. Take another sip of air in. And the gap between breaths. Just going to scan your mind. Notice any thoughts and emotions going on. Particularly anything that's fearful. Notice how that fear shows up in your body. Maybe there's a knot in your stomach, tightness in your chest. And whatever else is going on for you. And now with the help of your breath, just exhale it out. Just blowing all of this fear out. A dark gray or black smoke out of your mouth. You feel the energy subsiding, just releasing. Just letting it all go with the breath. Pull the lower stomach into the spine. Expel the last remaining air out. Just rest here in peace for a few moments. And now breathe in again. So nice deep breath in through the nose. Notice the stomach rise, the chest rise, subtle flow of air into the nostrils. Squeeze the sphincter muscle. Feel the life energy rising up your spine. Take another sip of air in at the top. So the crown of your head. Just pause at the top of the inhale. Smile as you connect with this fearless presence of peace in you. And then exhale. Just sigh it all out. Letting the air flow out of your nostrils. Chest and the stomach suck back in gently. Just make the sighing sound of the back of your throat, like so you're fogging sunglasses, but you keep your mouth closed. Just paying attention to all these very subtle sensations of the breath, coming to rest again at the bottom of the exhale. Smile, and then repeat the cycle, just breathing in these nice, deep, slow, rhythmical breaths, your own time. Watching the breath, stepping back, and just watching all the subtle sensations of the breath, the stomach rise, the chest rise, air flowing into the nostrils. Energy rising up the spine. Pause, smile, to connect with the peace. And these gaps between breaths can really connect with the now, which is a portal to eternity. Smile as you do that, and then exhale. The whole process reverses. You sigh it all out. Make the sighing ujjayi sound on the back of your throat. The air flows out of your nostrils, the chest and the stomach. Suck back in. You come to rest again. It's like a wave just sighing back into the ocean. You come to rest in the stillness and the peace. So just keep watching your breath, stepping back and just observing, being the witness. As you listen to these words, I'm going to share with you from Workbook Lesson 48. It's a very short lesson, one of the shortest in the entire workbook, only 3 paragraphs. One of the most profound. And listen with your heart. So this isn't about listening intellectually. The mind, you're not comparing, contrasting, analyzing, evaluating, judging. You just allow these words to drop into this calm, spacious awareness that you've created. Keep one hand on your heart, just listening with your heart and feeling the peace and the love that these words point to. So that's what all these lessons, the entire course is really designed to do, is to help you to feel love and peace and joy. So let go of fear, anger, hatred, guilt, because fear denies love, and love denies fear. So we must choose. That's the central lesson of the course. We must choose between these ideas and these states of mind, of being. These lessons, meditations, are really just designed to help you to make the right choice. So keep watching your breath, keeping your mind nice and still, calm, empty, open but aware. So listen to these words from Jesus on fear. And he simply says, there is nothing to fear. Another way of saying that could be, there is no thing to fear. In other words, no form. No thing means no form, no appearance to fear. Because these no things are really nothing. They have an appearance of reality, but they do not have true reality. So the idea for today simply states a fact. It is not a fact to those who believe in illusions, but illusions are not facts. In truth, there is nothing to fear. It is very easy to recognize this. It is very difficult to recognize it for those who want illusions to be true. Just keep watching your breath as you let these ideas just percolate into your awareness, to your subconscious, which is where they needed to undo deep-seated belief in fear, and the reality of the external world that seems to cause you so much fear. So practice this idea. Just repeat the idea. In your own mind, as I say it, just repeat it to yourself. There is nothing to fear. And bring to mind anything that's disturbing your peace of mind, anything that you're fearing, you're anxious about. Something minor maybe, or something major. State of the world. It's going to happen to the world of humanity. You can call that a major fear in the ego's thought system anyway. A minor fear, you're worried about how you're going to manage financially, possibly, or pay your bills, or worried about someone's health, your own health or someone else's health. just bring these ideas, these fears up, because the whole point, these exercises, to look honestly at your fears. So just breathe in as you do that. Nice deep breath in, just bringing some awareness surrounding these fears with some presence, some awareness. Create some space in your mind. Look at them honestly and realize that the presence of fear is a sure sign that you're trusting your own strength. Awareness that there is nothing to fear shows that somewhere in your mind, though not necessarily in a place you recognize as yet, you have remembered God. Another word for God is love. So if you remembered love, but it's not a love of this world, it's infinite, eternal, unconditional love. And let His strength, let love's strength take the place of your weakness. The instant you're willing to do this, there is indeed nothing to fear. So exhale, just have a sense of releasing these fears. Imagine blowing them out like dark gray or black smoke out of your mouth. Letting them go. The Greek word for exhales, same word as for forgiveness, which is interesting. Just exhale. You let it go with the help of your breath. And the instant you're willing to do this, there is indeed nothing to fear. So just enter into this holy instant, the Course calls it. Perfect awareness of presence, presence beyond time, presence beyond this world, beyond the forms, the things of this world, all of which have fear underneath them. So they were all created by a mind that has disconnected itself from its source, from love, projected out its insane ideas to create an illusory world. Underlying all things then in this world, underlying all of our sense perceptions, it's fear. Until we're willing to really look at it and face it, it remains lurking in our subconscious, sometimes seemingly not there, but as you probably know, very quick to arise again when something on the level of form comes in to disturb you. What you have to start realizing is that these things are just triggers. And they just activate this belief, this thought of fear deep in your mind, in your subconscious. These mind training lessons are designed to help you let that belief go, to unprogram the program, erase the fearful program, and allow love to replace it. So one more time, just repeat to yourself, there is nothing to fear. Feel a sense of real release and freedom in that statement. It's the only way out of fear. As long as you make exceptions, then there will be something to fear. And one exception means that you allow all exceptions. The truth is absolute. If you contradict it, even slightly, you contradict the entirety of it. you accept that fear is justified in any form, then fear is justified in every form. Accept that fear is not justified and there is nothing to fear, and there can be nothing to fear. It's very simple, it's very clear-cut. Your only challenge is to accept it in your mind. So to help you do that, just sink in for a couple of minutes of silence. Just going deeper and deeper into your mind, just watching your breath. And the breath, keep your mind nice and clear, calm, empty, open, but aware. Remind yourself there's really nowhere else to go and nothing else to do. For the next 2 minutes, just breathe, relax, watch your breath, be still. And sink into a place in your mind that's beyond thought, by definition beyond fear. A place where there truly is nothing to fear. It's not really a place, it's a state of mind, a state of being. So just allow yourself to go there for the next 2 minutes of silence, sinking deeper and deeper with each breath. Smile, because there truly is nothing to fear. And if any of these fears seem to rear their ugly head again, thought occurs, you feel the emotion, a little stab of fear. Just notice it in this detached way, smile. Breathe in, say there is nothing to fear. There really is nothing to fear. It's just a thought, just an idea. Exhale. Just blow that fear away with the wind of your breath like a dark cloud. There's no power to obscure eternally serene sky, which is your true awareness, or the sun, which is your source in the analogy. So sink into this eternally serene place beyond fear for another minute of silence. So just gently coming back and into an awareness of your body and the breath. The count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. Just breathing in, notice the stomach rise, the chest rise, subtle flow of air into the nostrils. Give your sphincter muscle a little squeeze, notice that. Notice the life energy, this warm tingling thread flowing up into the crown of your head, up your spine. Pause at the top of the inhale. Smile. So notice this fearless presence. Hopefully it's very clear in your mind. Smile again and then exhale. Out your nose, keep your mouth closed. A sighing sound in the back of your throat as though you're fogging sunglasses, but you keep your mouth closed. It's called the Ujjayi sound in yoga. If you've done yoga, you'll be familiar with it. Notice the energy subsiding back down like a wave breaking back into the ocean. Coming to rest in your lower stomach and your groin. So that's 1. 2, while your tension's down there, just noticing the weight of your body pressing down into the chair, feet touching the ground. Just noticing all of your body sensations, what you're feeling and touching with your hands. Maybe there's a subtle flow of air on your skin. So you breathe in again, notice air flowing into your nostrils. Stomach rise, chest rise. Maybe there's a subtle smell in your nose, a taste in your mouth. Just notice these subtle sensations we don't normally notice. Bring your mind completely into the present moment. Notice what you're hearing in the surrounding environment. Again, tuning into the subtle sounds. Might be the ticking of a clock. Got a water fountain going in the background here. Sounds of voices in the distance, traffic going by. So whatever's happening, just allow it to arise. With no investment on your part. You don't have to name these things, judge them, label them. You can just step back and just witness and observe. Notice how peaceful it is when you do this, and how fearless. If you don't give a meaning to anything you perceive, then fear is impossible. Fear comes from the meaning that you give to things. You think something is going to threaten you. All fear is really stress. Stress is just a perception of external threat in some way. But that's perception. It's about how you choose to see things. Most of the things we see are fearful only because we give them the power to do that. Someone's directly threatening your life. In very rare instances that happens. You might say that fight or flight response of fear could be quite helpful to save your life, but in 99.9% of cases, fear is simply not justified. It's all a mental interpretation coming from our interpretations, our perceptions of what we think we see and feel and touch and taste and hear. So 3, open your eyes, look around, just noticing whatever happens to be around you, surrounding environment. In a very detached way, again, just letting your eyes rest on objects fairly randomly for a few seconds, then move on to something else. And don't name it, don't name anything, judge it, label it, interpret it. When you start to practice like this, you start noticing that the underlying awareness, your underlying awareness is the same. of everything. Doesn't matter what it is, that awareness is still there. So you're training your mind that there is nothing to fear. Because if everything that you see is the same and it's all illusory, it's all meaningless, nothing I see means anything. That's the first lesson of Course in Miracles workbook. And why would you fear anything? So wish you good practicing this afternoon. In the Art of Letting Go community, I've sent you a shorter recording, 2 recordings actually, one longer one shorter one, to help you to practice today's lesson frequently, ideally every hour, and in response to any temptation to fear, even a minor anxiety. It's really just the tip of an iceberg. It's the tip of the iceberg of fear, which goes to the very foundation of the ego's thought system. So practice well, and I wish you a very fearless and flowing afternoon and evening ahead. If you're out there on YouTube, stick around. We're going to have a discussion session right now. If you're in the WhatsApp group, I'm going to bid you farewell, and hope to connect with you tomorrow, 12:30 UK time, 1:30 SA time, for an afternoon meditation, and 5:30 p.m. UK, 6:30 p.m. SA time in the Zoom room for the evening meditation. Thanks for listening. Namaste. Alrighty. Unmute anyone, everyone. Still there?
Yeah.
Great. Sorry about the first 5 minutes of that. I had like a horrible itch in my throat. I was really struggling to. It's like the worst thing if you're trying to guide a meditation.
Please don't give us COVID if you don't mind.
No, it's nothing to do with COVID. I think it's dry air or something.
You were coughing at the part when you said the chest is restricted.
Yeah, it was interesting because I was like, oh my, it was actually just like a little itch in my throat, and I was like, oh, I actually just have to cough it out. Anyway, so yeah, let's do a little check-in. I'll just take this off. I'll stop the share for the moment. You can always go back to share and come back to this lesson. So, Karen, do you want to share anything arising for you? Any issues? It's just an expression session, so the idea is we just stay silent and listen, and we can discuss anything once down the line, once you've expressed.
Okay, so I'm new to this, but I'm guessing I'll just try and share as best as possible. I think for me, it took me really back to when I was at school. I was quite fearless. I would do any sport. I would take on any challenge, be it educational, sports, mental, speech and drama, whatever, I would do it. And one day I woke up and I actually said, well, I don't believe in fear. And then I thought, well, I'm scared of closed spaces. I was claustrophobic. So I went through things and tried to find the thing that was the most claustrophobic thing that I could find, and it was actually scuba diving. So I enrolled on my scuba diving course, and within 5 minutes of getting underwater, the fear was gone. So then I thought, well, I'm also a bit scared of heights. So I started paragliding. And I thought, I've got this. I'm not scared of much. Boy, oh boy, the last year, it's not even being scared of things. I realized that those levels of fear were physical things in the third dimension. But the fear, all of a sudden had hit me like a ton of bricks, like the emotional stuff. I think one of the reasons was losing my employee due to epilepsy. We were the only 2 employees in Africa, and it brought up a lot of memories about my brother, because as sick as he was, he had epilepsy. And sometimes I was at home as a young girl, grabbing the spoon and putting it in his mouth. And that feeling of like hopelessness and fear came back almost 30 years later, after losing my brother. And then also just other fears, you know, all the emotional ones, like fear of failure and fear of not being good enough, and failing in my new business, all of those things. And so the meditation was really beautiful. It's really appropriate. Everything happens very, very appropriately. Yeah, that's basically it. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie?
Yeah, I agree. It's although I'm scared of heights, and I wouldn't go and stand on top of a building and rappel down it, to be honest with you. But definitely the emotional stuff, and I'm just finding that the more I actually look at myself, the more I find I'm fearful of sort of almost inconsequential things, just what one says during the day or what goes on, that you can catch yourself where you feel, oh, maybe shouldn't have said that, or maybe I shouldn't have done that, or whatever. So it's quite interesting to observe and as you said, not good enough. I think that's a recurring field for me as well. Anyway, yeah, that's basically it. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. So, what's arising for me? Yeah, I'm feeling pretty peaceful right now. I think in the last couple of weeks, last month really, it's been almost a purging. I shared some stuff last week about family issues and so on. But it seems to have resolved. I mean, one never knows what's going to happen in the future, but it's almost like that conflict was necessary to sort of bring stuff up, and then it's just sort of dissipated, and everything's kind of gone back to normal. Well, no, actually better than what was normal. Just more sort of peaceful, more flowing, more harmonious. So it's been very interesting to see how you always get a second chance. I think, you know, I shared that situation with my sister last week, which I won't go into again, but it's like I got a second chance because I then had the chance to look at it and just kind of zoom out and go, okay, I'm not actually going to respond. She'd send me a whole email. I'm not going to respond to this. I'm just going to let it go and just see what happens. And there's a line in the Course which says forgiveness is quiet and merely looks and waits and judges not, and it's quiet and simply does nothing. And so I really did that. I was like, okay, I'm not going to respond to this. Just going to kind of let it go and not dwell on the situation and think over the thoughts. And it sort of all dissipated. I'm now like invited back into the house and I'm having dinner. So it's been very interesting to kind of watch that unfold. And I guess it's an illustration for me of just like how powerful forgiveness is. If you really sometimes just sit back and do nothing, as it suggests, that, you know, these kinds of situations can resolve. And fear, I suppose, underlying, you know, a lot of it was fear of not being worthy. I had to look at a lot of that stuff. So that's a recurring theme for me. I think for almost anyone on the spiritual path, not good enough, not worthy, and really that's your underlying fear. That's my underlying fear. Because this was done on the first person, so it's my underlying fear that you're actually not good enough, and you're not kind of making it on the level of the world, and you're not doing enough, and like whatever you do is never quite going to be enough. I think that's the lurking fear, that really just need to keep looking at it, and as it arises, keep banishing it through the simple practice of like, okay, I see it, I'm willing to just let it go, and just be. And I am okay as I am. It doesn't really matter what I'm doing. It doesn't matter what's happening in my life, and there's always going to be situations, drama, an element of drama. We're in relationships and so on, but it doesn't really matter. Like I am that I am. There's, that was in the Bible, of the first names of God was I am that I am. In the Old Testament, I am that I am. And I love that. It's just like I am that I am. And actually, that's not I am what I do. It's I am that I am. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. I think just staying there, really, staying in that nice kind of peaceful, calm equilibrium. There's a flow, and just watching, just being really observant of these mind patterns as they come up and they get triggered by situations, and then ideally not making the same mistakes twice, not responding in these same sort of conditioned ways. So I actually had a chance yesterday, so my sister said something about not using too much mayonnaise, and I could have gone into and I just let it go. I was like totally okay, didn't even say anything. I just put the mayonnaise back in the fridge, and it was a little incident, but the point is, I think you get what I smiled at on reflection was like, you get another chance at everything. So even if you don't get it right the first time, it's like there are going to be other chances. You never, eternally damned. The ego wants to tell you, oh, you're just never going to get this right, and you're eternally going to mess it up, and you're just hopeless, and that kind of hopelessness and despair Karen mentioned. But actually, you've got another chance every moment, and if you're just willing, then you'll get these opportunities to learn your lessons and make real progress. So yeah, it's been a very interesting month or two, just dealing with, I think, some deep-seated family stuff coming up, and really looking at it and looking at it from the perspective of myself. Okay, so how am I perceiving this, and what is this? How is this just really my projection, and how can I use this to help me undo this ego, this personal individual self that still kind of lurking in the background, that wanting to take charge. And so I feel like maybe just a little bit more vigilant. I'm a little bit more vigilant, a little bit more mindful than I was sort of a few weeks ago, which is a good thing. Okay, so that's my sharing. Let's unmute you. So any questions about any of what's been shared, anything you'd like to discuss, because this is now open forum discussion.
Just chuckling to myself, Jono, because I thought it was olive oil, not mayonnaise.
Yeah, well, it was olive oil last week, but then it was mayonnaise this. You see, so but it doesn't matter. It's not really about the thing. It's the principle behind it.
It's not, but the reason I laughed was because on the Friday before the talk last week, I went to a business gathering with quite a religious thing spin to it. It didn't really bother me, but on each and every placemat was this beautiful picture, and I've actually got it to put on my whiteboard just next door, with this branch of olive oil. And this lady actually said, like, if you put the right fertilizer into the soil, it's like your thoughts, and your olive oil will never run dry.
Okay.
It was like so metaphorical. And I just was compelled to sit in this one specific seat where I'd never normally sit.
Yeah.
Because my back was to the stage and I didn't want to bother my shoulder and my neck. And I sat there, and then right at the end, they said, oh, and all your olive leaf papers, you can turn them over because they had written a specific message. And mine was like so appropriate. It was about the vine growing and, you know, about things being on the vine for me and new opportunities. So when you, even last week when you spoke about the olive oil, wow. And it is sometimes the simple things that are so simple that, you know, it's, I mean, for me last week going to my parents, it was freezing cold in Pretoria. And my mom said when we came inside, oh, you're supposed to be having your sparkling water that you brought. I said, well, I'd like a cup of coffee. It's like cold. It's like just a cup of coffee.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because the world is symbolic. Nothing means anything. That's kind of the course's central teaching, but it means what meaning you give it. And so meaning is a very important part of the course's teaching. The first 4 lessons are all about meaning. Nothing I see means anything. I've given everything I see all the meaning it has for me. And like I actually meditate on those every day. I just go through the first 7 lessons because it's like there's actually the essence of the whole course there. Nothing I see means anything. And I've given everything I see all the meaning it has for me. So these things are symbols. We give it the meaning. So someone can see, you know, they could have been in the same spot as you last week and seen the same message, and they would have given it a different meaning. We give everything the meaning that it has for us. And the job is really to use everything that happens in this world, and let the Holy Spirit, what the course calls the Holy Spirit, this voice that speaks for oneness, that speaks for love, and let it interpret for you. Because it's impossible to live in a way where you go, okay, I'm just going to totally check out and like I'm not actually going to participate in the world. In a Western world, it's very difficult to live that way. I think in the East, people just take themselves out of the world and they sit in meditation sometimes their entire life. And that's, you know, that's what they do. And that's a mystic path to enlightenment, and they'll get there. But the course is actually designed for Westerners. He's saying, you know, this is probably not going. That's probably not going to be. And he even says it's probably not the quickest way. Sitting for years in contemplation or meditation, you know, these various spiritual practices he addressed it. He says there's actually a quicker way, and that way is to be in the world but not of the world, and just reinterpret everything that happens through different eyes. Start seeing differently, and so then what starts to happen is you start to see these little symbols, don't you? These little things come into your awareness, and you go, maybe you wouldn't have seen that previously, a year, 2, 10 years ago. You just wouldn't have seen that, or you wouldn't have even noticed. But as you start to awaken, you really start to instead of mosquito.
I've got proper sweet blood. There'll be one mosquito in the whole room. Last night we went to a gathering and I was the only person getting chopped by mosquitoes. So there's one buzzing around. So it's not me trying to get your attention, trying to kill them. I only kill mosquitoes, I promise.
No, lavender. Get lavender for yourself. Lavender essential
oil. Good idea.
So it's all symbolic, and it's seeing it with different eyes. The course also talks a lot about perception, about changing your perception, because that's what it all comes down to. The whole thing is this is a perceptual world. It's conceptual. We've got a concept of ourselves as some separate person, separate identity. We've got a concept based on separation, and then our perception just follows from that. So now we perceive from that separate self. And what he's saying is that that's the essence of all of our problems, of all fear. Fear is conceptual and perceptual. We think separation is real. We think we're a separate person with a separate identity, with a separate body, with all these separate interests that we really value and cherish that can be threatened. And from that conception of ourselves, we must perceive a fearful world, because we perceive that now everything is actually, it's threatening that. It's threatening our whole self-image. And yet it's all in the mind. That's what he's saying. There's really nothing to fear, because it's all conceptual and perceptual. even to the extent of, if someone's physically attacking you, as Jesus was, he was crucified. Even that, it's a concept of ourselves as an individual with a body that can die, that's being threatened.
Can I say something, Jono? Sorry to interrupt you. Is that I think what I'm finding, the more I look at this work, is that the concepts and the perceptions are definitely the issue. But what I'm finding is that what I don't understand in myself, what I haven't quite grasped, is that these perceptions and concepts are what we are attached to. And it's the attachment to these perceptions, because we think you can only get attached to a cup or a husband or a dog or a wife or whatever. But we're attached to the perceptions. And being attached to those perceptions is the problem.
But why are you? So let me ask you a question. Why are you attached to the perceptions?
Well, we think it's our special self, don't we? Or that's what makes who we think we are. So, but until I think, well, for me, until I haven't quite got there, is that I still don't see an idea or perception as a reality. But it is, because my life is run by them. I'm still not seeing my attachment to those thoughts that keep me running the way I run. My life runs the way. So I think for me, that's the crux of where I am at the moment, is the attachment to whatever it is, not wearing masks, whatever. I'm useless, not useless, whatever it is. It's the attachment to the perception that is the major problem. Because the perceptions are there anyway, but until you can recognize them as almost like a separate thing, it's the separate self that's running you. Until you can get that, it's...
Well, it's tracking it back, isn't it? It's tracking it back from perception to the self-concept, because perception is a product of the self-concept.
And the attachment to that perception, which creates a special self, then I must keep my special self, which is the separate self.
Yeah.
And the separate self now is the problem. Well, not the problem. That's the aspect of the self which we're trying to dissolve. But because we feel that we're so special, we can't let it go, because we're afraid to be nothing. We think it's going to be nothing. We like the drama of the separate self. So we keep our separate special self going, even though it's killing us, we'll keep it going. I've got a friend who's holding on so tightly, and you just go, but I'm doing the same. We're all doing the same.
Oh, well, it's the work, because the ego. Sorry.
No.
You're going to say something.
No, I'm just saying it's the attachment. Yeah, it's acceptance or surrender. It's the surrendering of the perceptions, surrendering of the attachment, that I think is for me is the biggest thing, because I think our special self is who we actually think we are, and that's where the problem is. Anyway, sorry.
No, it's fine. What Jesus is saying is that your way back, the genius of the Course's teaching is saying your way back home is to use your perceptions, to track back and start looking at the self-concept that produces the perceptions. That's why I spend so much time on training our perceptions. Because if we can start looking at these fear, for example, you go, okay, so who's fearful? Why am I really fearful? And who's the I that's fearful? You start to do the self-inquiry. And you start to and if you just look at it, you actually will start to see that it's ridiculous. Most of your fears and any kind of negative thought and emotion is actually pretty ridiculous, because there's a false self-concept there.
But we're attached to it, though. We're attached to the fear.
Yeah, but if you see that, if you really see the ridiculousness of it, you can kind of just zoom out and look at it, then automatically there's a dissolving that starts to happen, because you just can't believe that as much as anymore. And these patterns are persistent. They will come back. I mean, I've been working the course for 15 years, and then you can have a situation like arose with my sister, and like, you know, you back in there in an instant. You can go back into like attachment to your self-concept and you know, resistance and all of that, because it's very deep-seated. However, the more you do this work and the more you have these experiences and then you practice forgiveness, you start loosening the hold. You start being able to zoom out more and quicker, so that you can just start to see. And once you see the ridiculousness of the self-concept that you're so attached to, and you go, this is just really ridiculous. It's actually so ridiculous that I can't believe this anymore. Then something starts happening. It just starts kind of dropping away in a deeper part of your mind. And then your perceptions start to sort of follow suit. You start to have less fear and, you know, less of those attachments. And if they crop up, then you just use them to go, okay, just backtrack, look from the perception and backtrack into the self-concept, and ask who's fearing here, who's actually perceiving it this way, and why. And so you're just using your perceptions in the world to do the self-inquiry, which just naturally starts to collapse it. And then you change your perception. And that's the course's whole, you know, methodology. And it's actually extraordinarily simple. And yet it's not easy to do, because you're dealing with this. The ego doesn't want to let go, as you know. It's persistent, and like you want to, part of your mind wants to stay locked into those perceptions because it reinforces the self-concept, even though it's actually not pleasant. It's hurting you. It's hurting others. And so, you know, these reminders in the course are just there to keep you coming back to going, okay, just look at this differently. Just see it differently. See it with the eyes of the Holy Spirit, and then the forgiveness starts to happen, and the ego starts to dissolve. Karen, any thoughts on that?
I'm deep in thought. Sorry, I'm just making a few notes. I definitely know that the ego is one of the things that I need to work on. But the book that springs to mind, the whole time, even since the beginning of the lesson, I don't know if either of you have ever read it. I think his name is Gary Chapman. I know the title of the book is The Disappearance of the Universe.
Gary Renard.
Yeah,
Gary Renard.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was close on the Gary.
Yeah.
So, like, I really wanted to read that book, and I think I had possibly the longest library thing on a book. I mean, I was a bookworm by 4 years old. I'd read every single book in the primary school by the time I was in grade 1. And this Disappearance of the Universe, I could not read this book. I mean, I think, like, first of all, the author's name was Gary, my brother's name. I think in the first chapter, there were like 6 or 7, there was a Karen in there. There was like 6 or 7 people of my direct family, like their names and scenarios. And for some reason, I was completely fearful of reading that book. I eventually took it back to the library. I'd only read maybe the first few pages. I mean, like, I'm a proper book person. Yeah. So, like, that one was just weird for me. And I think, you know, maybe it was not the time to bring up my fears, or not the time to read it. I mean, the fact that you both know it so well, Gary Rayner, maybe it's time for me to read it again.
How long ago was that?
No.
About 8-9 years ago.
Okay.
God, is that how long ago it came out? Eh?
No, it came out in 2000 and something.
Was it
early 2000s?
A long time ago, yeah.
Because the copy I got from the library was still quite well used.
Yeah. So that, I mean, that is a great introduction to A Course in Miracles. Because the whole book is about the course, and so the scenario is that these ascended masters appear in his living room, and he has basically a series of chats to them. Whether you actually believe that happened or not doesn't really matter, because it's just a vehicle for the Holy Spirit to come through in another way. So it's conversational. He's making jokes with them, and they're talking conversational style, which is the course is not conversational, as you've probably seen. It's quite it's written in Shakespeare and iambic pentameter, a lot of it. It's a literary masterpiece, actually, in its own right. Just the use of the words and the poetry and so on. So it's not necessarily an easy read, but I can recommend reading Disappearance of the Universe as a nice kind of intro. It gives a nice overview of the whole course. It's done in a conversational way. It's quite funny in parts, and it's quite a nice way to then go, okay, yes, now I want to dive into the meat of the whole course as a sort of introduction. So
I was wondering what I was going. I mean, it's not like I'm bored or anything. But I was wondering what I was going to read in the evenings before I actually start in January, and this book just happened to come to mind. I might have a copy of it, like I had the course still in the plastic. You saw me taking it off last week.
Yeah.
When I got that book, probably 5 years ago as well.
Okay, so you've bought The Disappearance, have you?
I'm trying to think. I think I did, but it's not in this bookcase. It's in the bookcase downstairs in the healing room. Another one. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a good. It's not actually a difficult read. I didn't find it. I find it like very easy flowing, easy language. Obviously, if there's resistance to the ideas, then that's something you got to just work through. But maybe you might find now, 9 years later, that it's time.
I'm ready.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about your own readiness. When the student is ready, the teacher appears, as they say, in many forms. That can be a book, that can be a person, that can be a song, a video. The Holy Spirit will use all of these symbols to help you when you're ready, and that's really the miraculous journey the course is setting you on. It's like, if you really start to pay attention, you find that somehow, some way, like a way is found, and you find a way to advance your understanding and to grow, and the Spirit just finds a way, as we discussed last week with you, just finding this, and it's just how it works. When you're ready, then these things appear. So, Debbie, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, what I wanted to say is that we had a class in Course in Miracles, and we read in tandem A New Earth with it. Most of us had read
Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah. And if you just read that, read it. Have you read it already? You finished reading it?
Parts of it again, so okay. I'll read it again. Good idea.
What you might do is read it in tandem when you're reading the course, if you are reading the course yourself. And just go by intuition, because we found profound similarities by just reading. We'd read not even a chapter, a few pages, and then we read a piece of the Course in Miracles. And it just helps you to understand the course a lot easier, because the course is not, I don't think it's made to be understood so easily, but anyway, you'll find it's a beautiful book to just help with the course.
Yeah, and the power of now is also a good one. If you haven't read that was Eckhart Tolle's first book. This is really just and again, it'll give you just different language, but give you insight into some of the course concepts. So the now is really just, the course calls it the holy instant. It's a moment where you're just present in the moment. There's no past, there's no future, and that is a portal to eternity. So these books all kind of point, and what I found, like, I'd read The Power of Now, and I'd read A New Earth, I'd read all kinds of stuff, and they were all pointing somewhere, but I was kind of going, okay, but like, I want the whole deal now. I'm ready to, like, I want the whole truth. And then, of course, the course arrived, and the course does have the whole truth. It explains the whole thing, the metaphysics, how the universe came about. It's very deep, it's very profound. So it's almost, it's almost like the ending of the road. I don't know where you go after the course. There's nowhere else to go but heaven. I haven't found a higher teaching in this world. So I think it's something that you kind of, very few people go straight into the course. They usually have a path leading up to it. They'll, done various other things, read various books, and then, okay, now I come to the course, and that's kind of like, okay, now I'm going to give you the whole deal. This is, there's no holds barred. He tells you straight, sometimes very straight, in a way that's very challenging, because it's actually really simple. He's saying, look, it's just simply not real. Your entire delusion of a separate self and the world you've created to support that is simply not real. And there's no other truth. There's no way around that. You can't sort of fudge it and go, oh, well, I'll sort of make it real, and I'll, it's real or it's unreal. Nothing real can be threatened, and nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. But it does take a lot of time to get your head around that, because it's so like, whoa, like that's just a total mind shift. That's not a minor adjustment. That's like a total paradigm shift. That's a 180-degree turnaround to something entirely different, an entirely different thought system. And that's what the course is trying to help its students to accept, an entirely different way of thinking in a world that's designed to help to make you think through the ego's eyes and believe in the separate self. You've now got to totally reverse that and go, no, actually, I'm not going to think that way at all. I'm going to think the opposite, even though I'm still apparently in a body and the world still continues, and these, rules and laws in the world seem to continue. And that's what makes it challenging, because it's so radically opposite, radically different to, what you've done up to now in your life. Everything you've learned, basically, you have to chuck out. This course requires that you question every single value and belief that you have. That's the extent of it. Every single value and belief that you thought, was real, was true, that it's like, no, look at it, question it, because it's all gotta go. And that will take, that's not going to happen in a week, probably even in a year. This is really a lifetime's work. In my experience, anyway. So, and the deeper you go into it, the more it reveals itself. So it's one of those works that has a depth, levels of understanding, and that's how you tell a great work of anything, poetry, art, literature. There are these levels. So you can look at it on one level and you go, okay, yeah, that's, great, amazing. And then you can look at it again and you can see a deeper level, and then again, and a deeper level. And the course is kind of like that. It's just, that's why you can study it for a lifetime, and because you are changing. So you see it at a deeper level, depending on where you are. And you can read the same lesson 20 times. And every time you can see something different, and every time you can have a different experience, because it's you who's changing. And now, what I sometimes look at these lessons, I've done them for 15 years. Every single year, I just do the workbook, and it's almost like you're starting again every year. It's amazing. You think, how's that possible? That you don't get bored of it. You don't go, oh, I've done this before. I've read this before. Most books you read once, maybe twice, and you're like, okay, I've done that. I like, there's no point reading it again. I know it, but the course is not really like that. It's more just these pointers, they're ideas, which then take you deeper into your own mind. And depending on your level of understanding, you'll see them at whatever level you're at. And then you can read the same lesson or the same section of the workbook, and it'll just take you deeper in a year's time. So it's really it's a way into your own mind. It's a way to go really deep into your own mind and really start this process of inner exploration, of inquiry, of saying, okay, so what am I really thinking? What am I really feeling? Why? Who's the I that's thinking and feeling these things. Why? Why am I feeling these things? Why am I upset now? And because, you know, life keeps challenging you, as Eckhart Tolle says, you know, life was not designed to make you happy. It was designed to challenge you. The ego designed the world to keep you in its prison of the separate self. It was designed to stimulate, you know, these emotions: fear, anger, jealousy, rage, guilt, and so on. That's the purpose of the world. It was designed to keep that thought system in place. When you understand that, it's a major, like, whoa, it's a major awakening. Like, okay, the world was not designed to make me happy. I understand that. In fact, quite the opposite. The world was designed by the ego to make me unhappy and to justify my unhappiness. And once you get that, you're like, okay, I'm not going to now. I mean, if you think that the world's designed to make you happy, and then, you know, all these challenges keep coming, you're just going to be very, very frustrated and very unhappy. So you're like, this isn't happening like it should be, because you haven't got the right idea of what the world, you know, you don't understand why the world was made, which is why the metaphysics of the course are important to understand. Okay, it wasn't made out of love. It wasn't made from God's mind. It was made from the ego's mind, which is based on fear and guilt and sin and attack. And so what can you expect from a mind that thinks these thoughts, that believes these, but a world like this? You couldn't expect anything else. It was made to be the opposite of heaven and the opposite of love, to confirm in our minds that actually these beliefs were true, to show us the evidence that actually, you know, fear is true and love is not. Love is gone. We've destroyed love. Once you understand that, it's so enormously helpful in my experience, because you can really then go, okay, I understand the game. I understand that the only way I'm ever going to be happy here is if I practice forgiveness, is if I use these things to let go of the thoughts and emotions that are being triggered, like the guilt and the fear and the anger and so on. And then it starts to make sense. Then you actually have a thought system that can work in every situation, which then gives you hope, because you're like, actually, there's some hope here. I don't, you know, trying to make the impossible work is never going to work. You can't make the ego's thought system work. And that's what Jesus is trying to teach us. You can try as long and as hard and as much as you like in this world to make this thought system work. You will never make it work, which is a great relief. When I realized that, I was like, oh my God. You almost laugh. You're like, of course it's not going to work. How could it possibly work? I've been trying to make this impossible thing work, and it's impossible. It's not going to work. What a relief. I don't have to try and make the impossible work. Instead, I just have to change my mind and accept, you know, what's true, which is a great relief. Anyway, I've talked enough. Any ideas or comments on that? Just smiling.
I am, because the stuff intrigues me.
It is. It's very intriguing. Debbie, you wanted to say something?
I just wanted to say that do you remember that did you ever watch that interview with Robert Holden and his mentor? Did you ever watch that?
I did, yeah.
What was it called? Do you remember? It wasn't the Happiness Project. I'm just thinking that Tara might find it interesting to watch. It's a really lovely.
Robert Holden and Tom Carpenter.
There we go. Yeah, there we go.
It's probably on YouTube, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'll just find it quickly. Because I know that you'd love it, Karen. It's a beautiful talk.
Can you remember what it's called?
I'm looking it up now. Tom Carpenter, hey? Tom Carpenter.
Tom Carpenter and Robert Holden on forgiveness. And this guy, I think he's now, I'm not sure if he's still alive, but he was quite old.
Oh,
and just like,
forgiveness.
Did he die? I thought he died.
No, dialogue. It's called Dialogue on Forgiveness.
Okay. Is it on YouTube?
I'm just going to try and find it now. Sorry, carry on, yeah?
Dialogue on Forgiveness with Robert Holden.
I'm looking it up, Karen, with what you were saying. Here we go. Got it. Yeah. No, I haven't got
Yeah,
it.
there we go.
They're trying
It's
to
on
sell it.
YouTube. New DVD. Oh, actually, hang on.
I'm saying they're trying to sell it, but you can find it for free. It's a
All right.
beautiful one to watch, actually. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
I've actually got it, but it's I'm trying to think if I've got it. Anyway, look it up. Dialogue of Forgiveness. If you can't find it,
There's an excerpt. I'll send you the link to the excerpt.
Ah, thank you.
it's it's so beautiful.
Yeah,
It's
it's about
really,
an hour.
very, very beautiful.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So it's just that you got to understand it's a spiritual path that you're embarking on, and once it's kind of got you, it's like you'll have times where you go, oh my God, like what is this really saying? And your mind, like, because it's so split, it does take you into some difficult places. There's no doubt. But the only way you're ever going to undo the ego is to go to those difficult places. You're not going to undo it unless you face the darkness. In fact, every spiritual path talks about it, the dark night of the soul, it's called. Unless you're willing to go there and face it, then there's no other way. You can't avoid the fear and the guilt and the sin and this darkness in your own mind forever. You can the world is set up to distract you from that, to give you other things to chase after, to go, oh well, I'm feeling a little bit upset, so I'll watch TV, or I'll drink a bottle of wine, or I'll take some drugs, or I'll go shopping, or I'll surf the internet, or all these distractions that we set up to not face it, to not just sit and go, okay, I'm just going to be with it. I'm gonna go through that uncomfortable place. I'm gonna look at it, and with the help of these ideas, because that's all they are, these spiritual ideas, true ideas. I'm going to undo it.
That's a free one. I posted the free.
Okay.
Whole one free.
Is that the whole one free?
That's the whole. It's an hour 42 minutes.
Okay.
Ah,
It's really worth watching. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
thank you. That's great.
Amazing.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really good dialogue on forgiveness. It's a good insight into. So this Tom Carpenter been practicing for 30, 40 years or something, and so there's kind of I think if you've done it that long with intent, obviously there's you can do things on a very shallow level, not get anywhere, but you really got a sense from him that there's like a deep kind of wisdom and understanding of like forgiveness, just
With peace. With peace.
yeah, there's a lot of peace coming through, and forgiveness is quiet and simply does nothing, just looks and waits and judges not, and it's quiet and it does nothing.
If you copy the link, sorry to interrupt, sorry. You need to copy that link here because it won't stay on the Zoom. Karen, you need to copy it off.
I've copied it onto my browser. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. Thank you.
Sorry for interrupting you.
And then just let it take you. If you go on a path like this and you're serious about it, then the Holy Spirit will just guide you. Starts guiding you in every way. Sort of a mystical process that starts unfolding. It's a path. I was listening to David Hoffmeister yesterday talk on guidance, and it is actually a path that talks quite a lot about guidance, which is very helpful.
Yeah.
That there is this voice, the Holy Spirit calls it, so the voice of intuition, your inner self. You can call it many things. There is this voice that will give you guidance that's appropriate to any situation, that can really help you in your daily life, in the situations that you're encountering. One of the dangers or challenges is that this can be so so otherworldly. It's like, how do I even function in this world? How do I do this? This doesn't even exist, and yet I've got to carry on in this, non-existent existence and seem to function and live out my life. And the course is giving a very practical way. So, okay, you can carry on with your life in this world, but you're just doing it from a very different perspective. It's a radically different perspective. And then I can guide, the Holy Spirit will guide you moment by moment. So like a situation occurs and then it'll guide you. So, okay, just look at it this way. Just do your forgiveness, let it go. And then these miracles happen where just there's more peace, there's more flow, there's more harmony in your relationships because you're listening to that guidance.
What time are we finishing, John? Because I've got to go quite soon, hey?
Yeah, okay, we can wrap it up. Karen, do you have anything? I saw you went and got your book.
Yeah, so, I mean, I know that it's going to be complicated, the book and the journey and all that, and I'm ready for it. I just remember, like, when I was speaking to somebody, and I think I bought both books. I bought The Return to Love.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure whether they said I should read it before or during or after. So I haven't
There's
really
no
read
absolute for this stuff. I mean, it's an introduction to A Course in Miracles. It's about Marianne Williamson's experience of the course, and how she started and her journey and some of her insights on it, and written very much with a sort of female perspective, so that might be helpful. So you got 2.5 months before you start the program, then why not?
Okay. No, I just asked because I know when I bought sure, and it was also a bit of a strange book for me, Dianetics, Ron L. Hubbard.
Ron Hubbard, yeah, I've read that too.
And that one, then I think I got to about a third of the way in the book, and they said, don't think that you're not normal. You're probably not normal if you're reading this book, basically. But if you do get stuck at anywhere between this particular point, don't push yourself to go further. And then there was another book. It's also in the healing room. I forget what it was called. And then I actually stopped Dianetics and read that one to get a better understanding before I could continue. And I just had a funny feeling that there was something with this one as well, but maybe it was that.
No, read. Follow your intuition. If your intuition says read it, read it.
I mean, just the way I met Jonathan was like, that was that was intuition and falling. So good advice.
Yeah, nothing else to listen to.
Yeah.
You really.
I was going to say, but it probably won't be appropriate. If all else fails, I'll use my pendulum. But I think I better throw my pendulum away and trust my intuition more.
Don't throw it away. Sometimes your intuition gets mixed up, I think.
Yeah.
The idea with the course is that you really just become clearer, a much clearer kind of channel or vessel, to start listening to this voice of spirit that's always is knocking on the door. It's trying to come through, and it can help you to see every situation differently. It can help you to make decisions on this level that are helpful, that take you down the right track. And the idea is everyone has got a personalized, because you're apparently an individual self. You think you're individual, your life, your situation is unique in this world. There's no one exactly quite like you. So you have an individual path back to God, which is perfect oneness, which is everyone's source. We're all the same ultimately, but the way back there is going to be very individualized for everyone. And so it's just listening to the guidance, and it's going to direct you, in ways that are very helpful for you. So books come, people come, and just kind of ask. All you have to do is ask. I mean, I mentioned that story last week about how the course came about. I'll mention it for Debbie. It's quite an interesting story, Debbie, in case you don't know it.
I know the story.
Do you know how they got it published?
I think so, yeah.
So Helen and Bill had been working on this thing for 7 years, and it was locked up in their cupboard. They'd finished it, and then they said to Jesus, well, so what should happen now? Should it be published? And he said, yeah. He said, I'll send you someone, a woman, but she's not quite ready yet. I'm like, okay. How will we know? He said, no, you'll just know. So a few weeks later, Bill was at a convention, and this lady called Judy Scutch, who was a teacher, was lecturing, and just randomly she quoted verbatim from the course, from the manual for teachers, except that the course had not been published and had not been seen by anyone else. So Bill was like, whoa, hang on, I recognize that line. That's directly from the course. So he went up to her after and he said, how did you know that? How did you know to say that? She said, I don't know. I just said it. It just came through me. So he sort of knew that it was her. She was the lady. So that she had arranged a meeting with them, and she had no idea why she was really meeting. And then they were kind of chatting to her. And then suddenly she said to Helen, you've been hearing voices, haven't you? Helen was like, oh, how did you know that? Because Jesus was directing it all. This, Holy Spirit or Jesus, this kind of divine presence was directing it all. And so then they showed her the manuscript, and she was a teacher, so she started just printing little copies, sections of it, and then distributing them to her students, and they just kept going. And so then they were like, okay, maybe we should print this, but we don't have the money. So what should we do? So they kind of wondered, and nothing really happened for a couple of months. And then one day they said, well, we haven't actually sat down and prayed and asked Jesus. So they just sat down and they said, like, what should we do? And he said, the people who will publish this, because they'd taken it to some publishers and it hadn't got published and they wanted to change it or make it shorter. And so then he said, the people who will publish this will dedicate their entire lives to it. I'm like, whoa, how are we going to get publishers to do that? Publishers don't normally do that. And then they realized, oh, it's actually going to be us who's going to do it. So they sat down and they said, well, okay, so what do we need to do? And Jesus said, you need to commit. He said to Judy Scutch, just commit first. Commit first and I'll do the rest. And so she did. She said, okay, I give my entire life. I will dedicate the rest of my life to this course and this path. And the next morning, she got a phone call from a guy in Mexico who got one of these brochures, somehow made its way down to Mexico. And he said, so, my name is whoever, are you going to print this? Are you going to publish this? And I said, well, funny you should mention that, because we were actually having a meeting about it yesterday. And yes, we do want to, but we don't know how. He said, oh, well, it's no problem. He said, I've just sold some land and I'm going to donate the money to you. And I've already sent a check. You should get it in a couple of days, which was exactly enough to publish the first volume of the course. So it's just like a very miraculous kind of unfolding, just through guidance. They just listened, and it all kind of happened because they were just willing to listen and be guided. So the idea is like, if we can start living our life that way, then we live in the domain of the miraculous. All kinds of miraculous things can start unfolding if you're just willing to listen. And that doesn't always mean jumping straight in and trying to solve it on the level of the mind and doing your normal sort of problem solving modus operandi. It's actually a different way. It's a different way of solving problems, actually. That's the interesting thing. It's actually very practical, because Jesus is saying all the problems are created by your own mind and your ego. And so trying to solve them on the same level they were created, as Einstein said, we cannot solve significant problems we face cannot be solved at the same level of thinking we were at when we created them. The course is saying exactly that. You can't solve them on that level, because you'll just keep perpetuating, because the ego wants the problems. You have to go up. You have to go into another part of your mind, the Holy Spirit, that can transcend that level of the problem and just see it differently. And if you can see it differently and you can go, okay, show me, then you open the way. Then the Holy Spirit can come in and say, okay, I'll give you an answer in whatever way, shape, or form that shows up. That could be a person, it could be a book, it could be a billboard, it could be an email. It can use all the symbols of the world to help you. So, shall we close it out there? Any other questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Okay, so let's just do a little closing meditation prayer. Close your eyes. So just closing your eyes. Take a nice deep breath in through the nose. And just breathing in the essence of this fearless presence we've talked about. State of mind that transcends fear. You could call it love. There's peace in there, there's joy. Just breathing that all in. Filling your body up, your mind, every corner of your mind, every fiber of your being. And just remind yourself there really is nothing to fear. This presence is all-encompassing, it's transcendent, it's complete, it's whole, it's perfect. And just give thanks for that. So feel the gratitude for this presence, the voice for God, the Holy Spirit, your true self, doesn't matter what you call it, is always there, guiding you in its ways, helping you to let go of fear, to undo fear and all the other egos, thoughts and emotions. As you exhale, just feel like you're dropping all that, just letting it all go. Sinking into the fearless presence in your mind. There is nothing to fear. In truth, just smile. To connect deeply to this fearless presence. Breathing in again, just resolving to stay here for the rest of the evening and on into your week. You can use the short recording I sent you. You can use this recording just to remind you if you need a reminder, or just a simple breath, closing your eyes, breathing in and just looking at whatever seems to be causing you fear. Noticing those thoughts, noticing the emotions, and then just stating the simple truth. There is nothing to fear. And smile, exhale, and just let it all go. And allow that underlying peace, joy, happiness to arise in you. Smile. And it's that simple. Just 30 seconds or minutes can reconnect you with this fearless presence. So thank you for the session. Thank you for listening. Thank you for doing this work. And I wish you a very fearless and flowing afternoon and evening and week ahead. Namaste, which means the fearless presence, the love, the peace, the joy in me honors and acknowledges that same fearless presence and the love and the peace and the joy in you. Thank you.